sure we are live and going. Okay, it says connecting. I just want to make sure we get connected here. All right, I just want to refresh and make sure we can see us. Okay, it says we're live, but I always like to double check just to make sure. Okay, I think we are live and we are going. Let me send it to Instagram here so people can watch there as well. Okay, we are live. Wonderful. I see us. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for day 2 of Boys Town Newborn Week. We had a little bit of an audio issue just quite right when we're going on, but you guys are also forgiving with our live videos. So thanks for hanging on a couple minutes beforehand. But we are live today with Dr. Sarah Orr to talk all things sleep, from naps to nighttime. Sleep is definitely at the top of our minds when we welcome a newborn into our family. And so we're going to go through several discussion questions related to sleep. And of course, we have a giveaway. We're doing giveaways every day this week. So if you're watching live, make sure you like this video and leave a comment below. You can comment anything, say hi, let us know your due date, what you're excited for in becoming a parent, whatever you want, and we will count that towards an entry and then draw live at the end of this stream. Of course, if you do not want to leave a public comment, maybe you're early in your pregnancy or don't want to disclose and comment publicly, that's totally fine. We're checking our inbox as well, so you can always send in questions and an entry that way. The prize today is a Welcome to the World First Year Baby Bundle from Boys Town Pediatrics. Dr. Orr, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's great to have you on. Sleep, like I said, is a hot topic. So we'll dive right into our discussion questions and leave room at the end for our Q&A. The first question we have here is, how many hours of sleep should my newborn be getting each day?
Yeah, so babies don't have a regular sleep cycle until about 6 months of age.
Mhm.
Newborns get about 16 to 17 hours of sleep a day, but you have to remember that that's in like 1 to 2 hour increments at a time.
Yeah.
So sleep for maybe an hour, maybe two, maybe three, and
Mhm.
then they're going to be up for a while and then down again and up and down, which is why we always hear those stories about tired moms and tired parents and those first few weeks.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. How can I help my newborn differentiate between day and night?
Yes. So there's something called day night reversal, and
Mhm.
a lot of babies, especially newborns, will do this. There's nothing you can do exactly to prevent it, but there are things you can do to help baby re regulate. And the biggest thing is to create really conscious days and nights. So clearly you want day to be day and night to be night. So during the daytime, we want the lights to be on and we want there to be background noises. And so we call these like active sleep basically during the day. So they can be sleeping in the living room in their bassinet as long as they'll tolerate that. Um, they Other children can be running around. Obviously, we don't want them screaming, but some background noise is absolutely okay. The room doesn't have to be pitch dark. It doesn't have to be perfectly quiet. We want to keep those types of things for nighttime. And then during those nighttime feeds, we want to keep it really low stimulation. So daytime is kind of more stimulation, especially when they're awake. You want to be talking to them, showing them things like that. So lots of activity during the day when they're awake, and activity around them when they're sleeping. And then at night, keep the lights off or at least really dimmed. You do have to see while you're changing diapers in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
keep things quiet, keep your voice light, really no other stimulation other than what you have to do. So changing baby, feeding baby, and then putting baby back down or rocking baby, but really low stim, keep things light, keep things dark.
Mhm. Yes, wonderful. So let's talk about safe sleep. What does safe sleep look like, and how can we make a safe sleep environment for our baby?
Yes. So safe sleep, the first thing you need to do is always have baby needs their own space. So I say they need four walls. So it can be a bassinet or a crib, but they need to have their own space with four walls. So we never want baby sleeping in bed with you. The risks are just too high for suffocation and other bad things to happen. If in their bassinet or their crib, we want a well-fitting mattress. So want something that fits the bed you own. So if you got your crib or bassinet from a secondhand store or somebody else and you have to find a separate mattress, that's okay. But just make sure that the mattress does fit that bassinet or that crib. Also, we want the mattress to be kind of firm. We don't want it to be really, really soft or anything like that. We want it to be kind of firm. And then you want a fitted sheet over that mattress, but really nothing else in the bed with baby other than that fitted sheet around the mattress, and then what baby's wearing and what they're swaddled in. Recommend, I know temperature is a big one during sleep and things like that parents worry about. We recommend one layer of clothing, the same layer of clothing you have on. So if you have two layers for baby and then one extra. And
Oh, she joined with her phone because we were having audio issues with her computer. So I think her phone might have blocked, but she'll come right back in once she unlocks it here. Thanks, everyone. Give her a couple of seconds. She'll rejoin. Well, you have me in the meantime. I want to say thanks everyone who tuned in yesterday to Breastfeeding with Dr. Sawyer. We talked all about breastfeeding and formula feeding. So if you are watching this and you missed that, all the videos are saved on our page, so you can tune in and catch that yesterday. All right, here she is. Did you get knocked out?
Yeah,
Oops.
that's caller knocked me out.
That's okay. I knew that was going to happen, so we're all good. All good. But anyway, we were talking about what we should wear while we're sleeping. Baby.
Yes. Same number of layers you're wearing, and then one extra layer, whether it's a swaddle or something else. Yeah. Swaddles are great during nap time. Other things to think about is where you position that crib. So we want it away from windows for a multitude of reasons, but one of the reasons is the cords or the
That's your brain.
Yes. The cords for the blinds.
Okay. Yeah.
The cords for the blinds can be a strangling hazard, and the blinds themselves as well, depending on what type they are. So just keep them away from windows, keep the crib away from windows. Other things, requirements for the cribs have changed over time. So if you have an older crib that you're using, just make sure that it meets the updated requirements. For one example, our old cribs had one of the walls would kind of lower in order to get out. We no longer recommend those. So we do not, if you have a crib like that, I would recommend updating. There's also new requirements as to how far the poles in the cribs should be apart. A lot of that has to do with, if a kiddo can get their hand caught or other limbs caught, that's a safety hazard as well. And then you also want to bed a crib that you can lower that mattress over time, because once they start being able to roll over or get onto their knees, you got to lower it. And then once they can stand, you got to lower it again so that baby's not toppling out of that crib for you. Yeah. Other things to think about, especially when you're looking back at your old baby photos, you might have noticed the pinwheels above the bed. Those are fine when baby's young, but once baby can try to grab them or get them, we want them put away. Don't recommend either. My words are hard.
No, that's okay. It's always the things that look so cute in the nursery when you get it all set up right when you bring them home, just kind of evaluating that over time and thinking, okay, let's take that out, move this around and make it safe. So wonderful. The next question we have here. Oh, sorry. Did you have something else to add?
One more thing. Always.
Yeah, do.
And if they can roll, you always still want to lay baby on their back for sleep.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. How do we handle night wakings and feedings?
The biggest thing I encourage is to have a plan and set your expectations. So, especially with your partner. So it really comes, I always think this conversation starts before baby comes and is really more between you and your partner rather than baby. So who's going to wake up for those night feedings? Is mom breastfeeding? Is it solely going to be her responsibility? Is dad going to get up and do the diaper changes and then hand baby to mom for breastfeeding? Are we going to bottles overnight so that mom can get a little more rest, or that she can pump while dad is giving the bottle? Are we both going to be up? Are we going to switch off? So one shift dad gives a bottle and the next mom breastfeeds. Having those expectations really helps upfront to help with decreased resentment and things like that, and fatigue too. Moms, especially breastfeeding moms, I find kind of take it all on themselves to do everything because they are the main provider of food and sustenance at that point. But remember that dad can help. Dad probably wants to help. He just needs probably a little direction and what would work best for you guys. So really have that discussion before baby ever comes. And then set a good routine once baby does arrive. And baby will kind of dictate this a little bit too. So if your kiddo cluster feeds at the beginning, they may be up every hour to eat. And that will be your routine for the first few days. Over time, though, those feeds should lengthen. So they'll be up every 2 to 3 hours. And that'll be a better routine. And you can kind of set that too over time.
Yes, definitely. What are some signs of sleep problems in newborns?
Yeah, so there's the really fussy babies who don't necessarily want to sleep as much. I always say, try your soothing mechanisms, the things we think of like swaddling, bouncing, white noise, those types of things. If those aren't working, always reach out to your pediatrician to make sure there's nothing else going on. And then there are your babies who really like to sleep a lot.
Yeah.
Those worry me a little bit more than the criers do. So when I have a family that comes in and they're like, oh my gosh, they're such good sleepers, they're already sleeping through the night, that worries me. Because babies need to wake up at least every 3 hours to eat. And some babies will do that on their own and let you know this is the 3 hour mark and they need to eat. And some babies will not. So there's that old adage, never wake a sleeping baby. We do not believe in that in the newborn phase. They need to be woken up at least every 3 hours to eat. And if they're not doing it, then you got to go do it for them.
Yeah, definitely. The next question is about routines. So how can we establish a bedtime routine for our newborns?
Yeah. So, again, set expectations, kind of set what your schedule looks like and things like that. So, and then kind of make a routine that fits your family and feels good for you guys. So a lot of families will do like bath time before bedtime, and then we read a couple books, and then we rock in the chair while we take a bottle or breastfeed, and then we lay down. These kind of routines won't all look the same. But again, set a routine, make sure it's very consistent, because that gives cues to baby that, okay, we're settling down, we're getting closer to bedtime. And also make it so that energy level in the home kind of slopes down. So again, we know that low energy, more darkness, those types of things will all encourage baby to know that it's time to sleep and that we're all getting ready for it. And again, the better routine, the more they will pick up on these cues. But again, not every routine is going to look perfectly the same. So kind of just work with with your family and your schedule and see what works for you. And then again, in the newborn phase, expect nightly wakings every 2 to 3 hours and kind of be prepared for those as well. And then put baby back to sleep. Every once in a while, we do have babies who don't love their cribs or their bassinets right away. Moms are warm and they have food and they know that they're safe in mom and dad's arms. So that's where they would prefer to be. But again, the safest place for them to sleep is that bassinet or that crib. So like anything else, I just remind my families, you can cuddle baby, but do give them time in that bassinet and that crib on their back so that they get used to being able to sleep in there. That way They can sleep both in your arms or in the crib when you're awake, or in the crib or bassinet. And so that they're very used to both of those settings is really important as well.
Yes. Well, that answers my next question was, is it okay for baby to sleep in the same room? The same room is fine as long as they're in that bassinet or in that crib, right?
Yes. So we actually recommend baby be in the same room as parents for the first 6 months, and this helps increase the risk of SIDS. But we do not want baby in bed with you. If you are awake and have eyes on baby, then baby can be in bed. And obviously, some moms will even feed in bed. I sometimes recommend having whoever is feeding baby pick baby up and sit in a chair or on the couch, or maybe even in a different room to do those feeds, just because it is so easy to fall back asleep while feeding baby if you're just sitting in bed. So be aware of that. But yes, we are definitely happy to have baby in room with parents for that first 6 months at least, just not in the same bed.
We have 2 more questions on our list, and then we'll hop into the Q&A. So if you're watching live, make sure you like this video and leave a comment with a question or any comment to participate in the giveaway. If you're watching this later, maybe tonight or over the next few days, and you still have a follow-up question, you can leave that as well, and we will pass it along to Dr. Orr for you. Dr. Orr, what should I do if my baby seems to have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep?
Yeah, so soothing techniques, and a lot of them you probably already know of. So swaddling babies, they were tight and snug in your belly, and so that tightness and snugness is something they really, really like. But again, every baby is a little bit different, and so there are some of those kids who just want their arms out, and that is perfectly fine. So if you want to do like a swaddle where their arms are out, but the rest of them is swaddled, that's perfectly fine. Kind of go by your baby's cues. But swaddling makes a huge difference with like calming them down and getting them to settle. They also have a bit of an increased startle reflex when they're little. So sometimes that swaddle decreases that and allows them to sleep for longer periods of time as well. But again, don't let them go through their feeding times. Other things you can try are pacifiers. Pacifiers are soothing. That sucking motion is very soothing to them. A lot of breastfeeding moms worry about starting pacifiers. Lactation consultants generally say if you've got a really good latch by the second week, they're okay with you starting a pacifier because that latch has already been established, so that pacifier isn't going to mess anything up. And from my standpoint, if you've got a really fussy baby and you're trying everything else, go ahead and try the pacifier. It is worth them getting sleep and you getting sleep. And I promise it's not going to ruin breastfeeding for you. Other things are white noise. I feel like this one is the one that families tend to forget about, but there's white noise machines, but you don't have to be super fancy about it. There's white noise apps on your phone as well. And just white noise in general helps a lot. You got to remember that they were in your belly, right next to your blood supply and everything like that. So they had constant white noise while they were sleeping and things. So that kind of helps settle them down too. Bouncing or just movement, walking, those types of things will also help because again, they were in your belly. So a lot of the times you're moving around and doing life, and that's very soothing to them as well. So basically any of those types of stimulations. And then of course, if you're still having trouble soothing baby or baby just seems really, really fussy or anything like that, please talk to your doctor because there are other things or other reasons babies might be fussy or just not soothing well. And so your pediatrician can definitely look for those and assess baby and things like that as well.
Yeah. How can I tell if my baby is getting too much or too little sleep?
Yeah. So, too much sleep, the biggest thing with that is just not enough eating. So kind of have to balance those two things. So sleep itself is not a bad thing. It's just when we're going past those feeding marks that it really becomes detrimental to baby. So again, you just need to make sure that we're waking baby up at least every 3 hours to eat. If baby's not growing or thriving, or we're struggling to wake baby up to feed, those are definitely reasons you need to talk to your pediatrician and have baby evaluated. And again, some babies will want to sleep through those sleep time or those feed times. Go ahead and wake them up. And as long as your baby's easy to wake up when you go in there at the 3 hour mark to wake them up and they do well with their feeds and they're thriving, you're fine. Your baby just is going to rely on you to tell them when it's time to eat, and that's okay. It's really when you're really struggling to get them to wake up for those feeds, or you're struggling to get them to take a bottle at their or breastfeeding at their correct times. As for too little sleep, again, it's more about not being able to get them to soothe or super fussy. So you can kind of watch how many hours you think they're sleeping a day, but the biggest thing is really how they're acting when they're awake. Are they okay? Are they eating? Are they super super fussy? Are they just not wanting to soothe? Does nothing seem to make them happy? Are they really fussy during feeding times, especially, or after feeding times? Are we having a lot of spitting up? Those types of things are what you want to watch for when you're struggling to get baby to lay down. And again, at that point, I would definitely talk to your pediatrician and make sure that make sure that baby looks okay and that there's nothing else your pediatrician wants to do.
Yes, thank you for all that detail. Super appreciated. So we'll jump into the Q&A, and Dr. Orr, we have several questions on sleep training. So could you talk a little bit, what is sleep training? Can you do it? How do you do it? Any resources you recommend with that?
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways to sleep train. There's lots of different styles for sleep training. And at this point, I always say whatever works for family.
Yeah.
You find a resource that seems appropriate for your family and seems like something you can pull off, then that's the one to go with.
Mhm.
There's not one that I like better or worse necessarily. It's really what fits your family. Because there are some moms who are like, I cannot listen to them cry it out.
Mhm.
And so they tend to do more of the like slow leave. So for example, um, they put baby in the crib and they kind of just sit in a rocking chair and let baby, they're in the room, baby might be fussing, but you kind of just let them fuss, letting them see you, know that you're there. And then over time, you slowly move yourself closer and closer to that door until you're outside the door, and then you're shutting that door over time. And then I have other families that are like, we've tried that and it just doesn't work. In which case, maybe the crying it out is a little bit better. And it does not mean like lock the door on your baby and just listen to them cry constantly. It means that you're going to give them 10 minutes. And if they're still crying, you're going to go in, check on them, make sure they're safe, and then walk back out. You're going to give them another 15 minutes. If they're still crying, you're going to walk in, make sure they're safe, check on them, make sure there's nothing they need. Like they're not poopy, they don't need a diaper change, they didn't lose their pacifier or something like that, and then go back out. And you slowly increase the amount of time that you go in to check on them. But again, you're still taking care of your baby. You're not in the door. You're not ignoring them. You still see their face and things like that. It's just that you have to let them learn to self-soothe as well. So it's really about what works for your family and what works for you. I will say that I do not recommend sleep training immediately. Your newborn, the things we want to focus on are eating and growing and safe sleep. So at that point, it's not so much about sleep training for me. I don't, we do not recommend the cry it out or letting them try to self soothe until about 6 months.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that when your baby cries, you have to immediately run to them and pick them up.
Yeah.
You've harmed them in some way. Babies can cry. It's their only way of communicating with you. So it doesn't always mean that something horrible is happening. It could just mean they're cold or they want their diaper changed or they're hungry. So look at crying as communication.
Mhm.
But we don't want to leave them there for 10 minutes or more to cry it out, because they just don't have that. They're not at that developmental stage to start scheduling themselves out.
Yeah.
And so I don't recommend sleep training until they're a little bit older. Other things, if your kiddo has like milk soy protein intolerance or has some other medical issues that might make sleep training harder, I would discuss it with your pediatrician before you get started. But if everything else looks good, then I say just pick a method that works for your family. And remember that you can always change your methods too. So if at some point you're like, gosh, I thought this was going to work and it just doesn't for us, that is okay too. And pick a different method and just try something different.
Yes, perfect. When do you recommend moving baby to their crib in the nursery? So if they're starting in a bassinet.
Yeah. So about 6 months is when I recommend it. Partially because developmentally they're beginning to recognize things more and become more routined in what they do. And so as they get older, it's going to be a lot harder to transition them into their own room when they are very used to when they wake up, they immediately see you. They are not going to be happy about being moved into a different room and not being able to see you immediately. So I always think it's easier to do at 6 months than rather when they're older. Other things that I recommend though are putting them down in their crib, in their room, for nap time, and starting that transition with nap time instead of overnight. And I think that makes it a lot easier also because they get used to the bed, they get used to the environment and things like that. And it's not such a scary transition when you do make that full transition. And you can start that honestly as early as you want to. So when you're home with baby, if you want to lay them down for naps, it doesn't always have to be in their bassinet. You could lay them down in their crib, because you're up and around and you'll have a monitor on them anyway. And so that's an option as well. And
Perfect. Okay, the next question. Well, someone asked at the beginning, are nights really sleepless and do they have to be? So hopefully this live since watching from the beginning has kind of helped answer that question. It's a little mix of both, right? You get some sleep, sometimes you don't. Probably depends on the kiddo too.
yes, absolutely. Don't be afraid of it. But yeah, you're not going to get your full like six
Yeah.
hours of sleep for sure. It's going to be kind of more intermittent. And again, it depends on the routine that you and your partner have set up too, as to how much sleep. But if you are a breastfeeding mom or even a pumping mom, for sure, you're going to be up probably every 3 hours to either breastfeed or pump in order to keep your supply going. So even if dad is helping with like bottles and things like that, moms are still going to be up and pumping. So you'll hopefully be getting like 2 to 3 hour stretches at a time. But you're definitely not going to get your full 6 to 8 in a row.
Right.
It's reasons we always recommend even during the day when baby sleeps for you to try to sleep, and prioritizing sleep kind of over some of the other stuff in the home, or giving that to your partner. Also, if you're a breastfeeding or pumping mom, saying, okay, like I've got to sleep and feed baby. And so I'm going to be up every 3 hours. So I'm going to need you to take more of the household stuff for a while. But I promise it gets better over time. Just kind of got to get through those first few months.
Yes, definitely. And we have a tool that I think we're sharing it this week. I'll make sure that we are. That's conversation starters before you give birth. That is a lot of what Dr. Orr is talking about, of things that we can do beforehand. So those will go up on our social media this week. Keep your eye out for it. And that kind of leads into another question too. This user asks, are there things in pregnancy that we can do to help encourage stable sleep patterns? So anything they can do before delivery? Maybe
I
you have a good bedtime routine yourself to
Yeah,
start.
honestly, having a good bedtime routine yourself, having a good getting enough sleep yourself and being healthy and kind of following a routine just in general
Yeah.
with, calming down and things like that. I have a lot of moms who say like at night baby's the most active in their bellies, where during the day sometimes they're less active when they're moving around and stuff like that. So I don't want you to be feel like the effort you're making to like have a good sleep schedule and sleep as much as you can is not doing anything, because baby again will probably be awake a little more at night sometimes, again depending on the kiddo. uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, just take care of yourself and get sleep, have a good bedtime routine, eat, drink lots of water, things like that. But there's nothing in particular that you're going to do that's going to make baby sleep better.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
nothing that you're going to do that's going to make baby sleep worse either when they
Yeah.
come. So I don't want you to feel like there's like some magic, and if you don't do it, it's not going to work for you or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so this question says, are there benefits of co-sleeping with baby in the same room as you? The question's due to space issues in the home.
Yeah. So having co-sleeping, that word to me means baby in bed with you. Um, so we don't recommend that at all.
Right.
But I think your question is more like having baby like in a bassinet next to you.
Next to you. Close. Yeah.
And the biggest benefit with that is just ease of taking care of them in the middle of the night and feeds. So again, you're going to be feeding baby every 2 to 3 hours. And again, sometimes in that first few weeks, it can be up to every hour, especially if they're cluster feeding. So it's really easier for you guys to grab baby and feed them if they're right there versus, the monitor goes off, you have to get up, go get baby, change baby, bring them back, lay them down, that type of thing. So it's just part is just convenience. The other part is you being able to monitor them a little more closely overnight, which is one of the reasons it does decrease the risk of SIDS in the first 6 months, having them in your room with you. Uh,
Mhm.
if room wise, it's just a little bit harder. I recommend putting the bassinet in the room with you. I've had families put the bassinet in bed with them. That's not always feasible for everyone, but that's an option too. But you can have a room for baby or like a space for baby in a different room, and that way you can pick baby up and take them to the different room if you need to do the diaper changes and things like that. Or some families do like a portable station where they have just like a box that slides in and out of under the bed. Have like diapers and wipes and all the things you need to like change a baby, and you can kind of do it on the ground or on the bed, whatever kind of works for you. But don't think that you need like all of their clothes in your room, or their changing table in your room and all of this stuff. You really just need baby, and that's pretty much it. And then you can kind of manage all the other things.
Mhm. Yeah. Perfect. And then questions about napping on the couch with baby and is it okay? She says, I've been looking forward to having times where baby is sleeping in my lap, but I don't know if that's a problem. So
Well,
probably depending on if mom is awake, right? Would be the determiner.
so that's the big thing, is whether you're awake or not. So if you are awake, I am completely fine having baby snuggled up in your arms sleeping. And I don't want anyone to miss out on baby snuggles because they don't last long enough.
Yes.
But yes, so you can absolutely sit on the couch, snuggle baby while they sleep. We just also want them to be able to sleep in that crib or that bassinet. So we do sometimes want to put them in those spaces so that they are comfortable sleeping in them, so that they get used to them and things like that. But if you're at home and you have time and you're sitting watching a show, absolutely snuggle baby, let them sleep on you. Good for you and them.
Yes, definitely. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at my list here. We touched on sleep training. Okay, one more question, and then we're gonna go ahead and draw for the giveaway winner. So thanks everyone for tuning in and leaving such kind comments and questions. I get so excited. We had someone comment and say, "Oh gosh, I want to find it." It was I'm watching it with my 6-day-old baby. So thank you, and we're so happy for all of you welcoming. So cute. Okay, this one says thoughts on bottle warmers in the middle of the night. Are they safe or would you recommend boiling the water and dipping in the milk bags? And then asked if you have any other techniques with that you recommend.
Yeah, so I don't recommend bottle warmers. Mostly because, so breast milk, when it comes out of your body, is body temperature, which is like 97, 96, and it would actually feel cool to our hand if we felt that temperature. And so your breast milk is not warmed up. So babies don't necessarily need their milk warmed up. So especially if you're doing like formula feeds overnight or something like that, they don't need to be warm. Now, if you are storing breast milk and defreezing them or thawing them out, sorry, that's a much better word, thawing them out, uh, and giving them to baby, then I recommend warm water and just putting the milk bag in that, mostly because it's a slower warm than the bottle warmers tend to be. And if you warm the milk too quickly, you can break down some of the proteins in the milk that baby really needs and thrives on. So again, I would recommend that. And again, the milk doesn't need to be super warm. It just needs to be thawed. So, but yeah, if you start, I will say that you will hear parents saying that their kid only does warm milk. And that's perfectly fine if that's how that baby works. But likely it's because they started with warm milk and that is what baby is very used to. And now they refuse to do anything different. Um, so if you start with cooler milk, baby usually is perfectly fine with that.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're about to spin the wheel here. I just want to remind everyone we're going to be live tomorrow on health and hygiene in the first 6 months with Dr. Empson. So make sure you tune in, and there'll be another chance for a giveaway and Q&As. Okay, so the winner for today, we've got Addie C. Congrats, Addie. I will message you from the page to claim your prize. And thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. Dr. Orr, even with you calling in on your phone, we got it done, and you've shared some wonderful expertise. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Congrats.
Congrats. And Dr. Orr will see many of you this weekend at our in-person newborn care workshop in Omaha. So we look forward to seeing you then. If you would like any information on scheduling a free meet and greet with her, I will go ahead and link that in the comments as well. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.